topic to start on, but what do you think is going to transition us into talking about Avatar again this week?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing, because there's other things I want to talk about.
Avatar?
No. I recently saw, do you know the game Dredge?
Yeah, the boat game?
Yeah. There's the fishing game that turns into a horror adaptation or something I don't know. It turns into a horror game almost.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it's getting a film adaptation, which I think is fucking awesome.
Okay.
I just saw this earlier, and I was just like, oh yeah, it's part of this it's getting this film adaptation by a company called Story Kitchen for a live action film based game based off of Dredge. Yeah.
The live action thing disappoints me because the art direction in Dredge was so good.
That's what
it's cool that it's getting a movie though.
That's what I said too. I was like, man, why does it have to be live service? Or whatever. Or not live service, live action.
Live action.
Good lord. But yeah, I was like, but that just reminded me. I was like, oh yeah, Markiplier is still making the Iron Lung movie, which I'm actually still really excited for. I'm curious of what that will all be and what it will look like when it's all done.
Do we know what the status of that movie is? Or
I know Mark said he's in the final stretch, but I remember seeing him put out a video. I think he called it "I'm Tired," where he's just working really long days, and he's like I'm in the final stretch, but the problem with the final stretch is that it keeps stretching sometimes, and that's what's happening right now. So whenever it gets done, honestly, I'll be excited for it though.
Yeah.
So, but it just made me think of that, and I'm just like, man, if Iron Lung turns out really well, it's I would love for these smaller indie games like these to some of these cooler games like Iron Lung had a cool concept to it. Dredge has a pretty cool concept to it. Games like this getting their own adaptations, even if they're small budgets. It's it just kind of fits for the indie style. But
an indie game gets an indie movie. I think if more of those got adaptations, I think it'd be really cool. It'd definitely push people to try out more video games.
Oh hell yeah, it'd be so cool.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious. I'll have to keep an eye out for whenever Dredge the movie happens. So I think it's just it just sounds like there's plans for it, but not really any starting or whatever about it.
I was going to ask, did it just get put into development? Because I haven't heard anything about that.
I literally just saw this on Kotaku, it was posted today. So
gotcha.
I doubt we'll hear anything about this anytime soon. But I just thought it was cool.
In somewhat similar news, it seems like people are enjoying the Fallout adaptation, the TV show.
Is that out now, or is that...
It's coming out really soon, I think. It's early May, I think.
Because I was I've been meaning to watch the trailer for it, but I was I don't know. But yeah, it sounds like people are liking it. It's it has it looks good and everything like that. It plays homage to the Fallout series while at the same time doing its own thing.
It premieres in 2 days.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, real soon. Yeah, I'm so just out of the loop on that one.
It mainly caught my attention because I saw the IGN review. Apparently, they think it's better than The Last of Us.
I did hear something about that now. Yeah.
It's so weird to me that there's all this sun hype around Fallout. We got the Magic the Gathering collaboration. We're getting the TV show now, and for some reason we're just not getting another video game.
Yeah, right.
Makes no fucking sense, dude.
Well, Bethesda had to spend all those years on making Starfield so good.
That's fine, but you cheeky bitch. But anyway. But there are tons of studios within Microsoft that I'm sure would love to try making their own Fallout thing. It's why not just give it to one of them? Give it to Obsidian again.
Ain't that the question of the lifetime? It's
I don't get it, man.
I sit here going it's crazy to me that Bethesda was only able to make one game during this time where it's during the entire time basically over these many years, like at this point, Bethesda's been under Microsoft or whatever, and you see they're going just like, okay, they've been focusing on Starfield or whatever up to this point, and it's like, all right, now what? Now do you go for the next 10 years for the next Fallout game? Or, I mean, obviously you would think that it's Elder Scrolls 6 is next.
Next is Elder Scrolls, yeah. So who's going to be making a Fallout? That might not come out for like another 15, 20 years. It's like,
yeah,
come on, man. You've got to get another studio working on that shit.
And it's just really funny to me that it's just like, oh, and then, you have Square and then a bunch of other, like, studios that they have or whatever, and they're putting out games, like, left and right, bro. It's like, you can't have like a smaller team working on, like a Valhalla game. Like maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they're working at a snail's pace is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I get that things take a long time and everything like that. I was like, I always hate when I say it's like, oh, they're working at a snail's pace, but I sit here going just like, was Fallout 4 the last Fallout game? Or, well, I guess 76, but like...
Fallout 76 was the last Fallout game, but the last mainline Fallout game was Fallout 4.
Yeah, I forgot about 76, but I was like, yeah, Fallout 4 was like the last like mainline game we had, and I was like, that came out in
2015.
Yeah, 2015. It's like it's been almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty wild.
To be fair, 76 came out in 2018, which was still like 6 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just silly.
Yeah.
Silly. I mean, if the show energizes people enough to say, hey, Bethesda, go, please just make another Fallout game or something like that, cool. Maybe they'll bump that up.
They're like we both said, there are tons of studios, just not even just within Xbox and Microsoft, but within Bethesda that I'm sure would love to work on their own Fallout project.
Yeah. And
Microsoft has money to burn, basically. I don't see any reason why they couldn't just be like, okay, take this team, take these couple people from Obsidian, have them start a whole new studio, make Fallout. Like me.
Microsoft is one of like the weirdest. Like ever since like the Xbox Series X and stuff like that, it feels like everything has kind of come to a snail's pace. When it comes to that, and I'm not.
I agree completely.
It's just like it's again. I always say it's like I know games take a while to make or whatever, but it's like the fact is that it's been like we've had it since 20. Like the Xbox Series X has been out since 2020. Okay, we've had 4 years where your only real big games that you've had come out were Starfield and like Halo Infinite or whatever, and it's like that's it in 4 years.
Well, they've also had like Hi-Fi Rush and stuff, but I get what you're getting at. You also look at all the projects that have just been stuck in development hell for the longest time. You have like Hellblade 2. Like Hellblade's coming out this year, but apparently it's not much longer than the very first Hellblade game, which only takes about like 6-7 hours to beat. And for how long the game's been in development, you would expect something that's
expect a little more, maybe
a little bit longer. And you just look at like how long has State of Decay 3 been in development? It's been forever. It's like it's cool that they're constantly talking about how they want to get things rolling now. We really need to see some of these games come out, though, is the issue.
It's just I look at it and I know they've addressed how they're like, oh, we're not going to try and compete with Sony for all the amount of games we put out or whatever, and that's fine. I don't think you need to necessarily compete with the amount of games, but at the same time, when you look at Sony and what they're doing and all the studios that they have, and they're consistently putting out games, and you're not, you ask yourself the question of what the hell is going on, right?
I get you, yeah.
I'm not saying it's not it's like it is and isn't a competition between the two. It's like obviously they're competing companies or whatever because they're in the game studios. It's like that's inevitable. Like, but they're not like super rivals like the console wars of the early 2010s and stuff like that. Like it's we're not talking that anymore. But at the same time, it's like you're still a company that makes games, or at least should. and you
Yeah.
just haven't put out many in comparison to someone that's doing something else. And it's like, I don't know if like PlayStation is just hitting on all cylinders, where as it's just like, we're just kind of putzing around or whatever with Microsoft. And even Nintendo puts out a good chunk of games and stuff like that in that time. It's like, how long did it take to make like when you look at it, it's like Tears of the Kingdom was probably, I don't know, probably a pretty big game compared to, like, I don't know, Starfield at times. Like, I don't know.
I wouldn't say that at all.
Yeah, I was like, now I say that, I was like, probably not the case.
No, but
But it's like maybe even like Halo Infinite, like just like for like the campaign, probably more likely.
yeah, there's just been a lot of Xbox games that have been in development hell for a long, long time, and I think it ultimately comes down to mismanagement within the studios themselves, and Xbox in general really needed to find a good structure on in terms of like how their studios are managed and how things tend to work. Because I wouldn't say what they had going on is just them putzing around.
No,
I think it's a lot of different like visions for their games that are coming out that are all contrasting and really butting heads, and nobody and a lot of people just not coming together and
there's just
saying,
not
this is what we want to do, this is what we're going to make, this is when it's expected to come out. And so a lot of these games have been suffering because of it.
Yeah, it's just like finding out which direction they should take. It's like games that are probably, desired at the time, but it's been past that point, and so we sit here going, okay, how can we spin this in a way that fits with current trends or something like that? And it's just like, and that's kind of where things get stuck in hell. And it's like, I know I said putzing earlier, but it just it like, I'm not saying they're actually putzing, but it feels like they're putzing. It's like it feels like they're going so slow. I don't know. It's just like, I want Microsoft to make a comeback. I want them to do well. I want these games to do well and have that kind of feel that like PlayStation is having right now. It's just, what do I have to base that off of right now? Not a whole lot.
Well, to be fair, they have two pretty big games coming out this year still.
I know.
Aside from that, I get what you're getting at. Like the long term, why should you have faith in the Xbox platform? And that's what a lot of people are wondering right now.
Yeah, it's not even just the Xbox platform. It's just the games that they put out in general. It's just like, it just feels like, yeah, there's indie games there, and that's great, and everything like that. But it's like, but when it comes to, especially for like a company like Microsoft, it's like you need somewhat big releases or whatever. It's like, and so it's just like, Starfield was fine, and then you had obviously had a couple other flops, like what was that game, Redfall or whatever.
Redfall, yeah.
And it was just like, that didn't help at all. And it's like, now we're all sitting here going just like, all right, well, Starfield was the disappointment to a lot of people. And so I sit here going just like, why should I be excited? Like, convince me on why I should be excited for Elder Scrolls 6 right now. It's hard to do that, Whereas it's just like when I look at like PlayStation and stuff like that, it's like I've recently heard that there are reports that Sony Santa Monica is now starting production on God of War 3 or something like, I don't know. At least that's the rumors.
That doesn't make sense at all. I thought they were closing up the Greek saga and they were going to move on to something else.
I don't know. They opened a bunch of there was a bunch of new hires for some game that was unannounced. People are theorizing that it is God of War 3. Okay. Who knows? Who knows what it is? But
that's completely fair. At the same time, I think it's important to acknowledge that the Elder Scrolls and God of War are incredibly different in several different ways, and it makes sense for Elder Scrolls to have a longer development time.
Yes, and
At-
I'm not trying to compare the games together, but I'm saying it's like. But when I look at the track record of like Sony Santa Monica as opposed to Bethesda, I'm more excited for games from Sony Santa Monica than I am from Bethesda at the moment.
So I see what you're getting at, and like how at the moment you don't see why you should be excited for the projects coming under Microsoft. They don't have a whole lot of like big stuff coming out as consistently as PlayStation, and they don't have the track record that PlayStation has. That's all fair. I definitely think that they want to fix that. They've been trying for the last couple of years to fix that. I think we still need to see evidence that they're making any waves on that, because right now for a lot of people it's too little too late, and not really many people know what's happening with Microsoft as a brand. They don't know if, especially with the games that have gone third party recently, if they're going to do that a lot more, if they're just going to drop the Xbox as a console completely. A lot of this stuff is kind of up in the air right now. So, in terms of trying to convince you to be like excited for Elder Scrolls 6, I can't. We really don't know much about Elder Scrolls 6. I also can't guarantee those games are going to have better development cycles. I can't guarantee like games of like State of Decay 3 are ever going to come out, because we don't know the status of those games. Microsoft is in a uniquely bad spot right now, and they need to give us as consumers reasons to be excited, because I don't want to say that their last couple of projects have been bad. Redfall was bad, and that's fair to say, but in terms of like big projects, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. It's hard to be excited for studios that are like, I'm not saying Bethesda is bad, but they're just not doing well recently. It's kind of like how I look at it. It's like the Star Wars Outlaws or whatever, the trailer, one of the story trailer just dropped like yesterday or today or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I sit here going just like, I mean, it looks fine, but I'm not super interested in it. So I just sit here going like, I don't know what to think about that one right now.
Yeah. I think the big thing, this is going to sound really bad, and I kind of apologize. I think making Starfield was a mistake. I think they tried to dip their fingers into a genre they really didn't completely understand or comprehend. And they tried to put the, like, typical like Bethesda format, the one that they've used for the Fallout and the Elder Scrolls games, into a game like No Man's Sky, and it just didn't work. They ran into way too many problems. They had to make way too many sacrifices, and I think that's why that game is as divisive as it is. Like, the general like Bethesda stuff is good, but in the way they implemented it in Starfield just didn't work. It was not seamlessly like the way that people wanted it to be. A lot of the story beats felt kind of watered down, and the world felt, ultimately, for how big it was, it felt incredibly empty. And I felt like if they had just made their standard Bethesda game, it would have been received a lot better. Though I've heard some arguments saying that the old Bethesda style is tired and they need to retire it and they need to do new stuff. I don't really know.
I don't know. That's always the arguments I always hear from people. And I sit here going just like, it's a yes and no on that one. It's like, it's yes, that there should be new stuff, but at the same time, no, also keep what makes the games good in and of a nutshell, or what makes them unique from one another. Whereas it's just like just furthering your point as well, it's like with like Starfield as well, is like, even look at like Fallout 76 or whatever, it's like they tried to make like almost like a Rust or like
They tried to make a game that they didn't understand how to make, I think.
They went for this like live action like Fallout game, but then and then because I think that here's how, and I always hear this whenever like Bethesda games are going on right now. It's like the game is how you want to make it type thing, and I sit here going just like, so you want to make it a sandbox game, but you also don't give them the ability to you need to have like quest lines and storylines and stuff like that. Like, because that's what Fallout's known for. It's like it's known for its main story and its side quests, and like it's a big expansive open world and everything like that. So trying to say, oh, I'll make the story as I see it or whatever, it should be choices within dialogue rather than, it's just like, here's the big open world and go do what you do with it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's like, I feel like they've kind of lost the idea of what Fallout is. And it's like, it's hard for me to say, oh, I know what Fallout is as opposed to Bethesda. But I sit here going just like, 76 didn't launch well for multiple reasons. But
no.
But one of them I feel like was because of how empty and just non-existent the world of 76 was.
Bethesda had a very bizarre vision for 76, and I think they really... And it's kind of the same issue that they had with the Elder Scrolls Online, where they didn't really understand how players were going to interact within it. They didn't give it enough development time, and like I said before, they didn't really understand how games like this are supposed to work, and I think a lot of Fallout lost its identity in that transition to a live service.
Yep,
I do want to say that despite the terrible launch of basically both games, and the fact that it's had like bare bones player numbers for years, the fact that they're still sticking with it, I think, is pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, it's just like,
Elder Scrolls Online in particular is vastly superior than what it used to be. And I can't speak that much to 76 though,
and that's why I sit here going just like sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, sticking with a bad live service game can work out. It can work out like ESO and like how even No Man's Sky turned it around or whatever. But I sit here going just like,
when you put a game out like that, like you watch, I think what you're getting at is like, remember the Internet Historian video on Fallout 76? Whenever people think about Fallout 76, they're not going to think about how much better it is. They're going to think about the launch.
Yeah.
How terribly that was all handled. So it's like, you can improve upon it, but whenever people still think of your improved turd, they're still thinking of the turd.
It's why I think whenever I think of No Man's Sky, it's like I always think of just like the empty promises, the poor gameplay and everything like that, the lack of like everything or whatever, and how boring the game was when it first launched or whatever. I don't care how good it is now. I always think of that moment, and you're gonna get some people that their first experience was well after that. Fine, but for me, that was my experience with the game, and I said, I don't care how it is now. I just remember what it was. I'm gonna move right on.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
You only get one chance to make a first impression.
Exactly. So it's just like, I'm never going to go back to it. But for the people who do play it, good for them. If you've stuck with it since launch, cool. I applaud you. I'm just going like, are you a masochist? Do you hate yourself? No, you probably just played other games while they were fixing it and then came back to it once it was actually good. That's more likely what happened. But you believed in the concept of what it was. And I think that's what a lot of live service games tend to miss a lot of times. It's like, is that even if the starting launch is bad, that if the concept in and of itself is good, then it can always turn it around. Like people, like I look back at Anthem. Funny enough, we're going to talk about Anthem. We talked, but it's like I look back at Anthem or whatever. It was a cool like flying around like shooting game or whatever that had like aspects of like a great like looter shooter in a way. And it was just like the concept was good. It was execution wasn't there. The content was just not there. The updates were not there, and there was a lot of things that went wrong with it. Player base dwindled off very fast, and EA just didn't stick with it, even despite that. But it's like I liked the concept, and I think a lot of people did like the concept of Anthem, but it just needed to be executed, and it just never found that execution.
I agree. I mean, you want to talk about studios that have been shitting the bed. Like, BioWare is the CEO company of shitting the bed.
They really are.
I don't think there is any studio out there. This is going to sound extreme, but I mean it 100%. There is no studio out right now that I have less faith in than BioWare.
It's pretty close.
I have absolutely no idea what the status is of on Dragon Age.
I was
whatever
like, there was a new Dragon
Age
coming out, wasn't there? Who knows anymore?
Apparently. I haven't heard about it since that one preview.
I remember there was
no reason to believe it exists.
Yeah, I remember there was a preview, and then I heard the game got scrapped, like completely scrapped, and then they were restarting from like moment one, and I sat there going like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You had a preview out there, and now you're going to scrap the game?" I don't know if that's true or not, but like, if that is, that's fucking nutty. And then, obviously, we haven't heard jack shit from it since. And then you have to wonder, is it even still in production at this point? Is there? And then you have to ask yourself, so remember when they put out the Legendary Collection for Mass Effect? And how they said that there was going to be more Mass Effect to come? Where's that?
What is the status on that? They also announced a new Mass Effect game.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I think they mainly did both those just to let people know, hey, we still exist. There's still reasons to be excited, but it's...
Yeah, EA is still not shutting us down. Don't worry about it.
At the same time, you look at these things, you look at... The last good BioWare game that ever come out was Dragon Age Inquisition. When did that come out? That came out when I was still in high school, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's old. Is that like 20... I don't want to say 2012, but it might be.
We are going to find out. 2014.
That close. That's a 12.
Yeah. So they came out with Dragon Age Inquisition. That game was fun. People enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Then they came out with Mass Effect Andromeda, which was universally despised.
It's true.
I will not hear any revisionist history on that. That game was always bad.
Hey, that game never happened to a lot of people.
Yeah. And then they put out Anthem.
Yeah, we all remember how that went. We all know how that one went.
And now their next couple of games have just been in development hell for the last couple years.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I loved the Mass Effect games. I actually really also enjoyed Dragon Age Inquisition. I played both those games before I went to college. Like, those are ancient history by this point.
Oh yeah.
If there's any studio that like the youth of today, that feels cringe to say.
The young kids of the day. Whoa.
They have absolutely no reason to be excited about any of these franchises. So they have to both introduce these franchises to a new generation and give them a reason to be excited for them.
Because the Legendary Collection was just for those old people that are still playing video games that wanted to be nostalgic about Mass Effect, and then maybe get a few young people introduced to it.
I'm sure that may have gotten some young people into it, but a lot of people, they're just interested in new games. It's like, yeah, that was great. When's the next Mass Effect project coming out?
Do you know
when did the Legendary Collection come out?
That was like 2022, or was that 21?
2021. Okay. So about 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to imagine myself from... I'm a kid that played that game when it came out. I got through all the Mass Effect games, and I thought they were great. Awesome. Loved Mass Effect. I then moved on to Andromeda, and I hate it. And it's like, I'm looking at what I have to look forward to now. They announced Mass Effect 4 and said nothing else.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, just going back to the point that you said, it's like, oh, young people seem to be more interested in newer games. And to which I go, I remember seeing this article. You may have seen it or whatever. It was posted like a week or two ago at this point. It was a week because this came out on April 2nd. But it was like, oh, yeah, it was like data shows from last year that more people played games that were 6 years or older than like ever. Like they rank like the top 10 games on each platform or whatever, and it's like Fortnite was universally the number one played game. Wow, no one's big shocker there.
I can't lie, that makes me really happy actually.
It's like
there's a lot of really good older games out there.
It's like, but it's just like Fortnite was number one on all platforms, Roblox on PC, and then Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation, Call of Duty on the Xbox, and then Legend of Zelda: Tears of a Kingdom on the Switch and everything like that. Those are the top two games. And it's just like you look at like the average like length that the games have been out. It's been over 6 to 7 years basically. It averages out to 6 years because it's like PC is like 9.6 years, PlayStation was 7.4, Xbox was 7.2, and then the Switch was the 3.9. I think that was mainly because Tears of the Kingdom was a recent game that came out. But it's like, and also it's just like the Switch doesn't hold on to games very long. Feels like it's like, yeah, you can still play them, but we're not going to support or make new stuff for them a lot of the times. So funny enough though, Smash number 10 for the most played games on the Switch.
Good for it, dude.
So it's still top 10.
Still kicking.
But I just thought this was I thought this was interesting because it's just like, oh, people are talking about it. It's like no one plays new games anymore. No one's interested in playing new games, and it's like, well, that's true and not true at the same time. It's like people have their comfort games, and when you look at all these games or whatever, they're all games that have our live service that are continually are supported throughout its like life cycle or whatever. It's like, yeah, these games all launched anywhere from 7 to 10 years ago or whatever, but they're also still supported to this day, minus Sims 4 that I'm seeing is the number 5 most played game on the PC. Why is Sims so universally loved? I don't understand that.
I don't understand it.
I don't get it. That will always confuse me to no end, but it is what it is. But it's like, I look here, it's like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, CS:GO, Sims, Call of Duty, League of Legends, Valorant, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Rocket League for like PC. It's like almost all of those games, if not all of those games, are still supported to this day. It's not like the game came out and then nobody plays it anymore, right? Or like that everyone still plays it despite it not getting updates. It's like they're still being updated. The only one that's like not anymore necessarily is Grand Theft Auto 5, but even that I still think is getting some updates on occasion. Maybe.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto 6 is also about to come out.
Exactly. So it's like I feel like everyone's just, and it's like the RP servers, especially for PC, are so fucking big.
Yeah, I've never understood those either.
I'll never get that, but it is what it is. So it's just like, it's like we can say we're playing 6-year plus games, but I go, are we really though? Or are these just games that have continued to be good and be like people's, I don't know, just like comfort game, I guess.
Yeah.
That's more of how I put it. It's like, yeah, it's like people play these games or whatever, but it's like, so it doesn't mean they're not playing new games. You know?
Yeah.
It's like I'd be curious to see out of everyone they polled for this like little survey here that they did. It's like how many of them played, like, especially like PC players, how many people played or like played Baldur's Gate? How many people played, I don't know, like just like a bunch, like the most recent games or whatever. And it's like, I bet you it'd be a higher percentage than you think. I was like, I also just saw, I was like quick while I was looking as well. It's like, oh yeah, 2024 is filled with gaming remakes and remasters. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. It's like, but it's like, you look at it, it's like, man, I didn't realize just how many were actually coming out. They have like every game that's listed here.
Remasters are always a safe bet. That's why so many studios are interested in them. Because they'll always do well.
Yep, and that was exactly their reasoning. It's like, ultimately, it's like remasters and remakes flood the market because it's risky to move forward with new games why not just remaster something that people already love and will buy again? And it's a sad fact. It's like
So-
I'm all. It's like it's one thing when the game needs that kind of update. It's like I look at like Persona 3 Reload. It's like that game needed that facelift. It really did. And like, but it's just like when I look at it, it's like Last of Us Remastered Part 2. I'm like, come on now. I mean, we talked about that. I don't want to continue on it or whatever. But it's like I even look at like the Tomb Raider remaster that came out not that long ago for like Tomb Raiders 1 through 3. It's like, that was kind of cool. It's like it was hard to play those games before, unless you had the old console. So that's kind of neat, I guess. But it's like no one was really asking for that.
I swear to God, if they ever remake The Last of Us Part 2, I'm gonna
remake the remaster of the remaster of the remake. Yeah.
If there's any studio in PlayStation that I don't have faith in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I get you though. I
don't know. It's just like
what are some remakes that are coming out now that I think about it?
Well, you already some that already came out or whatever, where we're just like it's just like it's like Star Wars Battlefront Classic collection. Yeah, we all know how that one went or is still going though. Unfortunately. Like some fucking servers, man. But it's like
I just made a mess.
I can see that.
Holy shit.
But it's like we also have like a Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door or whatever, and Luigi's Mansion HD. I'm sorry, Epic Mickey Rebrushed. That's a thing.
Yep.
What? Dude, Rugrats Adventures in Game Land? It's like, and then like Silent Hill 2 remake, which apparently is happening this year. I kind of forgot about that up to this point. And then I remember like they did announce this, but the Until Dawn remake and a remaster, and I sat there going, why? Why does it need a remaster? It doesn't.
Apparently every game just needs a remaster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. It's like it's one thing if the game like truly needs it. It's another one. It's just like, oh, we're gonna remake this just because. Our wallet's feeling a little light at the moment. And I go, it's not a good reason to remaster it. It's like
it makes money, which is the reason basically.
And that's what I always get annoyed by. It's like if it's one thing if the remasters are necessary to like play it because the system that it was on previously was is either just outdated to this point and hard to get, or it's just like it needs that facelift or whatever. It's like, whereas other games like most of the other games I've listed here don't really need it. It's just like, yeah, they're kind of a nuisance to play, but it's like many of them are on the PS4 or something like that. It's like you could just play.
Hey Nintendo, since you shut the servers down for the first Splatoon game, you want to just remaster this one?
Remaster the first Splatoon.
Why not? At the exact same time. Speaking of games that are coming out this year, apparently that's when the next Dragon Age is supposed to come out.
Okay.
We were just talking about that. And yeah, Dragon Age Dreadwolf is coming out late this year, apparently. My immediate response to that is fuck off. There is absolutely no fucking way that that's happening. Oh yeah, it's also coming out for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, apparently.
What? What? That's interesting.
Because why not, dude? Why the fuck not?
Right. I also love how I'm just like looking at like I'm looking at its Steam page right now, and it's all just cinematics, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, it looks nice, but does it actually look nice?
What Dragon Age is on Steam?
As like I see Dragon Age Dreadwolf right on Steam. It says it comes out soon.
So yeah, those look nice. Are any of them actual in-game screenshots?
And that's what I was trying to get at.
Or are they just all from the trailer?
Like it's easy for. I mean, this goes back to like I feel like gamers have always been cynical about just pure cinematic trailers for games ever since like Ubisoft did with the original Watch Dogs or whatever. It's just like, oh, this game looks great, and then when that game actually comes out, it's a huge downgrade and doesn't look nearly as nice as it did in the trailers or whatever. And it's like, that's why I always go, I want to see more than just cinematics, right? Like, it's like, I want to see what the actual gameplay is like. I want to see what the actual game, like, are these actual in-game, like, are you actually playing the game, or is this just cinematic bullshit, or is this like, there's just like a little bit of demo thing that you made for this that looks really nice, but when the game actually comes out, it will look like shit.
Well, BioWare in particular can eat my ass, because remember when the first trailer for Anthem came out?
Yes.
And basically every, like, BioWare employee watched that trailer and was like, oh, that game looks cool. I wonder who's making that.
Yeah.
They are the absolute fucking kings of faking shit, so unless I see gameplay overlaid these environments, I do not believe for a second that any of them are real.
Yeah, it's really easy to just, like, program for something that's already pre-scripted, where it's just like, if it's a game, it's a little bit harder. So, we're getting to the point with AAA games where it's just, we question everything we see, because a lot of the games that have come out recently have just been such utter bullshit and so bad that it's just like, it will not warrant me to want to spend $70 to $100 on a game or whatever. It's like going back to even like Star Wars Outlaws or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, buy the base game for $70, or you can buy like the deluxe edition for $110, which will get you which basically just gets you the season pass or whatever for the DLC. $40 for a DLC that you don't even know what it is, or even if the game is like remotely good whatsoever. And then as well as like, and then pay $130 for the Ultimate Collection. Now, what do you think you get for an additional $20 without looking it up?
I saw that already. It's basically just a bunch of cosmetics.
It's not even just cosmetics. It's just an additional 3 days early release.
Wow.
Yikes. An extra $20 just to play the game a few days earlier. I knew we were getting to this point. I knew we were getting to this point with this stupid bullshit of like, play the game early or whatever. But it's like, man, it's just like,
how much you want to bet this game is going to have like a battle pass or some bullshit?
Oh, it probably will.
All that news that came out with Tekken recently really has me dismayed.
Well, what was the Tekken news? I didn't hear it.
Oh, so you already paid $70 for the full game. You paid probably like another $20-$30 for the first character pass that came out, right? And now on top of that, you have a really grindy battle pass and a bunch of microtransactions that have just been added, and certain cosmetics that you can't get any other way aside from spending real money on them. And a bunch of people are complaining because now the game, it's like, why are all these microtransactions in a full-priced video game that came out a couple months ago? Or not even a month ago, I think, at this point. I don't know, dude.
It was January it came out, so it's been a few months. It's always the thing is like, you see this with like Konami games and the Bandai Namco ones. It's just like they just nickel and dime you to death. It's like, this shouldn't really surprise me all that much, honestly. I don't really think it should surprise much of anyone, but it doesn't. I don't feel. It does feel right though, being annoyed by it though. Like I'm not trying to say it's like anyone shouldn't be mad at them for not to be mad. It's like, be mad. You should be mad. And stuff like that. It also reminds me with like the what was it, like a dragon, the most recent one that came out. I forgot which one that one was. But the most recent, like a dragon one or whatever, where it was like, oh yeah, you needed to buy the Ultimate
Dragon
Edition.
Age Inquisition.
No. The Like a Dragon, the Yakuza games.
There was microtransactions in it.
No, I was more of getting at like, oh, people are buying. You have to buy to play New Game Plus. You would have to buy the Ultimate Edition.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was just like, well, that's not great.
No.
So it's like, I'm not surprised. It was Infinite Wealth. That's what it was. It was like, I'm not surprised that it's like eventually like these companies that were already getting away with stuff like that, like where it was like, oh, the bunch of microtransactions and stuff like that for games that are already really good, but because they know they're good and people are going to spend money on them, they will nickel and dime you to death. Doesn't surprise me. It's like I even look at like Infinite Wealth's like whole thing is like, oh yeah, here's the vacation bundle, outfit, CD collection, outfit. It's like, dear Lord, man.
Yeah, so I'm looking it up right now. The game itself costs $70. The year one fighter pass costs a total of $40, and if you want to get the season pass, it costs another $30.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yeah.
This just sucks, man. I hate how everything is just trying to nickel and dime me nowadays. It's fucking annoying.
Oh yeah, it's not even just games. It's like it's literally everything.
It's fucking like movies, streaming services, TV shows. Fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I hate this shit so much.
I mean, it's like what was it? I bitched about this when I started watching The Bad Batch on Disney Plus or whatever. It's like the fact is that I have to pay like $7.99 a month or whatever to get access to the things, but then also get interrupted mid episode to watch 2 minutes of ads. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, you want to get rid of those ads? Then it's $15. Why should I pay you double to just get rid of ads? That's stupid. Oh, well, we can't afford to. You're Disney. You can afford to. Trust me. You're fucking Disney. Fuck off. So it's just like, man, it really annoys you after a while.
Yeah.
That's why it's like we're trying our best to keep them out of games, but you also have to remember that these are games and these are gaming companies, and what do you think the gaming companies make? And especially the AAA games, and why I remind myself that AAA games don't care to make good games. They care to make games that make a lot of money. That's all they're here for, because they're here to make money, not to make good games, to make money. That's why they only make the big ones or whatever. Why do you think Star Wars Outlaws is being made by Ubisoft? Because they want money. And they put in that bid for by Disney to get rights to make Star Wars Outlaws. So now they need to make back that money and double, if not triple. Will it work? I don't know. Is the game going to be good? We don't know. No one knows. That's capitalism for you in a nutshell.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really funny because I was like with the NCAA tournament finally over or whatever, I was watching games with my dad or whatever, and he's I call him an old. He's old and mad and cranky is what I call him, but I love him. But he bitches all the time about how in college sports the transfer portal's big now. It's like you have NIL deals which allow players to get paid while they're in college and stuff like that. But it comes down to if you're a big enough player, if you're a player who wants, is like good and everything like that, you want to be at a school that can either do well or is marketable in a way. Basically, oftentimes these are the schools that do well. So you want they oftentimes congregate the big schools. And so my dad always complains, it's like, oh, well, these guys don't have any loyalty to teams anymore or anything like that. And he bitches about the NIL stuff and everything like that. And I'm just like, it's like, yeah, I knew it was going to get out of hand. We all knew it was going to get out of hand. The NCAA doesn't give a shit to regulate it. They don't care to regulate it because they don't feel like they can regulate it, / they don't give a shit to regulate it because they still draw in numbers and they still draw in advertisers. People still watch the games like it's like no one ever thinks it twice about it or anything like that. So why should they care? Players can do what they want. it's just like, oh well, why am I? And it's like, oh yeah, I was paying the phone bill or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I know there's this fee on here for sports or whatever, and that's for all their players that they're paying NIL deals to. It's like with like Zach Edey and Caitlin Clark and stuff like that, and I sit there going just like, hey, guess what? That's capitalism, bitch.
Yeah, it's fucking sucks.
And it's like I'm sitting here going just like. You're the generation that was just like capitalism, big business. Don't get in the way of big business. Hey, well, guess what? This is what happens. Now you're on the other end of it. Have fun. While I'm on the moment of college sports or whatever, it's like the NCAA tournament for basketball did just wrap up, and lo and behold, UConn won for a second year in a row, and because they can't be fucking stopped, and they beat every opponent by 10 or more points in every game that they played for 2 straight years in the NCAA tournament. They beat every opponent by at least 10 points. Why? Because they know how to play good. They know how to play an offense that actually makes fucking sense, rather than just give the 7'4" guy the ball that has no skill. I'm sorry. I'm tired of the media talking about Zach Edey like he is some like amazing basketball player. He's not. He's tall, and you can get around that. He's 7'4". That's fucking tall, and he's got a lot of weight around him, so he can kind of body people around or whatever. When you get to the NBA level, you're not going to get away with that. Because guess what? Everyone's tall in that league. And guess what? They have a lot of skill. You do not. You are slow, and you cannot shoot the ball outside the lane. And guess what? They're not in the NBA. They're not going to let you just sit down at the post and then wait 5 seconds for you to make your move. You're going to have to learn how to play actual offense if you want to make it. And it's not going to work. All right, bitching over. Some team will probably give him a shot, though, and just see how he does, but I don't anticipate it being very well.
Going well.
Yeah, I was like, he'll get drafted by some team maybe in the second round or go undrafted, and some team will take it. Well, some team will take a shot just to try, but I don't think it'll work out unless he like gets way better. But he stayed an extra year in college to get better, and he only very slightly improved. Not enough to actually be like an NBA star, though.
Well, I hope he eventually gets there. Like,
I mean,
it seems ways to it. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, most of these times, these guys, especially in the NBA, if you don't make instant impact, you're probably not going to get there. You're probably not going to make it, or whatever. It's like I said, some team will take a shot on Edey, but I don't think he's going to be like he might. He'll probably ride the bench for a while and maybe fill a role or whatever, but I don't really see that happening. So most likely he's just going to end up either playing in the G League a lot or into the point where he's just like, I'm tired of playing in the G League. I'll go play Euro League ball, which is what a lot of guys that had NBA potential but just didn't quite work out kind of go to, is that they just go play in the Euro League. We'll see. I mean, I could be completely wrong in all honesty, but it's like I just don't foresee that happening. I've watched too many NBA games, too much basketball to realize the weaknesses. And if I can see the weaknesses, NBA scouts can see them too. Mm-hmm. Honestly, though, I'm really excited for the season. I was like Jackson Holiday for the Orioles. He was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball. Just got called up to the major leagues, which is pretty exciting. He is the son of I don't know if he's is Matt Holliday a Hall of Famer? He's Matt Holliday's son, but I don't remember. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. He had a lot of good years, though. No, he did not. He probably won't get it because I'm seeing here it's like he only received 5% on his first appearance. I mean, you can. It's just not likely, especially when you come out that low.
Yeah.
So he's a really good player, and his son is, obviously really, really good, and everyone's really excited to watch him play or whatever. It's like, it's really funny because there's so many young guys in the league to start out with. It's like the Brewers have Jackson Chourio, the Orioles just called up Jackson Holiday, and then there's also this the Padres. top prospect in that Jackson Merrill, which funny enough, their all first names were Jackson. I didn't even realize that till just this moment. That's pretty funny. And it's like, oh yeah, these are all young guys. They were all born in 2003 and 2004. They're like 19. They are either 19 or 20 years old, and they're basically like rookies that people have a lot of faith in that are going to be very good. I always find it funny. I was like a lot of times where it's like, in sports, you oftentimes a lot of like the older guys just like try and hold on or whatever. But it's like I feel like, especially when it comes to like professional sports, a lot of guys like Tony Kemp, I think, was dropped. He was a pretty decent baseball player a few years ago, but he kind of fell off after a while. He got dropped by the Orioles so they could bring up Jackson Holliday. And most of the time when you hear about that kind of stuff, they kind of like are just like, the young kids are taking over type thing or whatever. It's like, I'm still a good player. He's not even like, Kemp's not even that old. I think he's only like 32 or something like that. Maybe something around that. But it's like, it's just like, but he's just like, yeah, I'm all for it. It's like I realize I'm not very good anymore. So it's like, let these guys that have the potential, have their moment. And I'm just like, hell yeah, that's awesome. It's like, I think back to when like, what is it? Even when like, was LeBron James when he first came into the league? I mean, he was a weird exception because he came straight from high school into the NBA. And I think everyone was like, "Oh, it's a high school kid, that recent high school kid that graduated or whatever." And he was coming to the Cavaliers, and I remember a lot of those guys when talking about whenever the media interviewed them, talking about it was like, "Oh, what do you think about like LeBron James or anything like that?" And they go, "It's like we don't need this young kid thinking that he's the top dog in the league or whatever and stuff like that." And I'm just like. It's so interesting to me that it's like that was like 21 years ago, and it's like now it's kind of the opposite around. It's like guys are actually excited for when players come in.
Players that are coming up.
Yeah, it's like Victor Wembanyama was like we all for the NBA. It's like he's going to win Rookie of the Year in the NBA. He's been dominating the league for the Spurs. I mean, the Spurs suck, but other than Wembanyama is actually good. Mm-hmm. But it's like everyone was just like, no one came in saying it's just like it was just like, oh, we don't want this like foreign guy coming in and just getting his way or whatever. We're gonna make it damn hard for him. And it's like I'm not saying guys are gonna go easy on him, but at the same time, he has the ability to play well, and he was doing it overseas against older players or whatever. So in the EuroLeague. So he comes over to the NBA, and he's turning out to be a really good player right now, and he's only going to get better. It's like I look at Wembanyama, and is almost similar to probably just like a better Giannis, whereas Giannis took him a few years to kind of get going because he was too, I don't know, scrawny, I guess. Like he just didn't have the power or the speed or agility that he has now. Mm-hmm. And then over the years he just bulked up and got that speed, got that agility, got that kind of skill set and then mindset or whatever to actually play well. And then it just like took over. So whereas Wembanyama, he has the skill set or whatever, and if he bulks up a little bit or whatever, and he starts driving the lane and with aggression like Giannis does. Or if he wants to, or he has the skill set to, doesn't necessarily need to bulk up if he just wants to continue to shoot like the mid-range shots or whatever, kind of like a Kevin Durant. And I'm like, that's if you could do both, holy shit, that'd be a scary man to play against. I think he also said he has like a wingspan of like 8 feet as well, if I'm not mistaken. He's like 7'6" or something like that, or 7'4". It's anywhere 7'4", 7'6". I forgot exactly what it was, and he has a wingspan of 8 feet. That is nuts.
That is insane. What the fuck?
It's wild. I've just you see you don't see a guy like that come around too often.
No, no, you do not.
Yo, since we're on sports balls, I was like, I haven't had a chance to talk about the NFL's recent rule changes that they've done. Have you heard about any of them? Out of curiosity,
I didn't know that was happening. No.
So the NFL shortly after like the Super Bowl happened, did rules. They're getting rid of the hip drop tackle, as they call it, which is the tackle where when a player grabs around the hips of a player and then like kind of throws their body on their legs, basically the back of the legs. And so the idea of that is that, and then like tackles them through that way. The idea of banning this tackle is it's two-way street. It will help maintain players getting hurt. It will stop players from getting hurt. It will. Mm-hmm. It will stop players from getting hurt, specifically when it comes down to, especially like the ankle or knees or anything like that. Because oftentimes what happens is, the hip drop tackle is that the defender falls on their legs and oftentimes traps their legs under, another guy who's like 200 pounds. So something gets twisted, like something sprains, something gets overextended. Something like that happens, and a lot of players ended up having season-ending injuries because of that in recent years. Ultimately, it's better for the long-term injuries of the players, but I sit here going just like, I have no idea how a lot of these like linebackers are supposed to tackle some of these guys now. Honestly, I have no idea, but I don't know. It's just like I'm for and against this. I think I'm more for than I am against it. Just because it will ultimately lead to players not getting hurt.
Or you would hope, at least.
I mean, they're going to call penalties for it, and
yeah.
I'm sure players will get fined, at least for the first couple years of this rule being a thing, until it's kind of... It's hard for players that have been playing the game for as long as they have at that point to all of a sudden now say, hey, you can't do this anymore. That's the hard part about it.
There's definitely going to be an adjustment period of some sort.
Yeah. It was like if it's anything like when the NFL addressed the roughing the passer penalty, it's that you even touch the quarterback, that's a penalty. You grab her, so I can already see it now. You can grab her on the hips or whatever against these big guys. Even if you don't land in their legs like the rule says, you will still get called for the hip drop penalty. I will 100%. It will happen, and some team will lose games because of it. 100% will happen. And that's the problem. It's that the NFL makes these rules, which again benefit players' health. But at the same time, offer no solutions as to how players should tackle these guys that are bigger and stronger than ever and stuff like that. Like these tight ends like Travis Kelce and George Kittle, Derrick Henry and stuff like that, the running back or whatever. It's like these guys are big. You cannot tackle them from their upper body. They're just too big. They're too strong to be able to take down from the top part. So then you got to go for the legs. Hey, guess what? They also have the ability to jump over you. So... what do we do now? We have to go for their midsection. We have to grab their hips around like their hip area, their midsection. So how do we tackle these guys if we can't use the hip drop tackle? I got no idea. And ultimately, it's like, it's what's gonna end up leading to is that offenses are going to be better because of it, or theoretically they'll be better. No surprise. When the scores are higher, the games are more entertaining and ratings go up. Wow, that's crazy, bro. The other rule that they instituted was actually something from the UFL or last year when they were the XFL. Whereas basically the kickoff rule is different. The kickoff is different. So before you'd see the penalty, you'd see the two teams lining up respectively on their sides. The receiving team would line up with a bunch of players that go down. The kicking team then lines up with the kicker and would run down the field as the kicker kicks the ball. That no longer is a thing. Currently, the kicker still kicks it from where it's spotted, but he's the only one down on that side of the field. The players can go. The kicking team can go up to the 30-yard line on the other side of the field. and they have to wait there until the receiver catches the ball. Then they can move past and start going there. The idea is for more run backs on the kickoff, whereas the current kickoff is just pathetic. There's no fucking point to it. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it was like I don't remember what the stat was, but I think it was like a 28% like times it would be taken out of the end zone during the kickoff, which is abysmal and stuff. But it's whereas this one they want it to be around 60%. And I'm like, that's probably going to happen with this just because of how this rule is stated. But at the same time, wouldn't be surprised if it's not that. So the thinking here is, again, for player safety, because a lot of concussions happen during the kickoff. You know, guys are running full force onto, like, at the receiver, and then he gets hit hard, and all of a sudden he's out with a concussion. That makes sense. So how do you stop that? You make the players not run full force all the way down the field. You know, my only thing about this is that it's just like a touchback puts you at the 30-yard line, like as with this new rule, which is the yard line that the defenders already start at. And I sit here going, just like most NFL's kickers can already kick it through the end zone, which will be a touchback, so it'll just put them at the 30, and that's already what happens in the kickoff already. So what's going to change here? I don't know.
Probably nothing.
I was like, they want players to run the ball out, basically. But I sit here going, when you get a guaranteed 30, just take the touchback, bro. It's like, yeah, you can't fair catch it, which is probably a good thing, honestly. But it's like, what's going to stop them from just kicking a touchback and starting at the 30-yard line every time? Because if I'm the kick returner, I mean, the whole kicking team will be on there just to block you from head to toe. There's going to be no, like, holes or anything like that. Like, there'll be no way to run through. It's like that's what it is. It's like usually when players are running down the field, oftentimes they're running into the defending teams, and sometimes when you, as the kick returner, you can look down and you see, okay, is there any hole within the wall that I can run through, or should I just take the free 25? Oftentimes, you just take the free 25. That's why I sit here going, just like, they're just going to build a wall, and the guy's just going to go, well, there's nowhere for me to run, so I'll just take the guaranteed 30 and not get hurt. How does this change anything? Now, again, I want to point out again.
Probably doesn't.
Exactly. I want to point out again. This is how the UFL or former XFL kicking rule was. Is that, and the thing is about with those, with like that, is that these are all players that weren't good enough to make the NFL or make an NFL roster team. That's oftentimes what these UFL players are. They're guys trying to make the league or wasn't quite good enough, so they have this league to kind of as their backup in a way. So oftentimes the product isn't as good because it's not as entertaining as watching professionals. Okay, that's fine. But oftentimes that means there's a difference in skill. And that's right there, that's the problem. It is that the UFL won't be is not as good. So it oftentimes lead to big run backs on the kickoffs because the kickoff rule or anything like that. In the NFL, that won't happen as much, or at least it shouldn't.
You would hope not.
It shouldn't. So, again, all for player safety, but I sit there going just like, why do we even have the kickoff at this point? It's like, just start the other team at the 30-yard line. What about the onside kick? Oh, yeah, that's the onside kick. Yeah, you have to tell the referees when you want to do an onside kick now. Part of the fun of an onside kick was that teams didn't see it coming. But no one ever does that anymore because analytics tell you that you shouldn't use the onside kick because it's bad and everything like that. And I sit here going just like, Yeah, when the teams know it's coming, but when the team has no idea, if it's a close game or something like that, and a team all of a sudden decides an onside kick, holy shit, no one sees it coming, and oftentimes the team that did the onside kick gets the ball back. Whoa. Whereas this one, there is no element of surprise anymore. It's just like, hey, this is like we're in the final 2 minutes and your guys are up 7, so we need the ball back. If we don't get this onside kick, the game is over. And now you definitely know the onside kick is coming because we've now told the referees, and the referees now told you. So our element of surprise is gone. Granted, the element of surprise wouldn't have been there to begin with, but you get my point.
Mm-hmm.
There is no element of surprise. I don't know. I look at this and I go, I just don't like it. Honestly, I just don't like the kickoff in general. I just think when a team scores, just put the other team on the opposing 30 and just say, all right, let's go. Just get rid of the only special teams that are needed are the punts. That's it.
Mm.
That's it. Shouldn't need to do kickoffs and the onside kicks on occasion. That's it. I don't know. Maybe when everyone just goes, this new kickoff rule sucks, then they might just do that. But we'll see.
We can only hope, right?
I don't know. It's just like I feel like the NFL is trying to do what baseball did with the pitch clock and the disengage rule and everything like that. Games got shorter because pitchers now have to pitch faster. And players can't, the batters can't take as much time between, pitches to kind of just all right, what's he going to do type thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not super fan of the pitch clock, but I understand the reason for having it. And it's I think and it's just recently we've had a couple pitchers now have season-ending shoulder injuries. Spencer Strider just had is I think evaluating for an MRI right now. He's the ace for the Atlanta Braves. And it's just and there's research that says that the pitch clock is causing these pitchers to not have the the moment of break to let their shoulders, their arms rest, which is ultimately leading to more injuries as a result of it. Mm. And the MLB wants to now shorten the pitch clock even further next year. And I sit there going well, if these reports are accurate, then pitchers won't want that. If they're already getting hurt right now, imagine the amount of injuries we'll have, going forward with an even less time on the pitch clock. It won't be good. I don't know. It's only one report, really, and even though it's a very credible source, there probably needs to be more research done into it, but it wouldn't surprise me if that is what's kind of causing more shoulder injuries to happen, more injuries to especially pitchers. I mean, granted, just sports in general, just injuries are just crazy high.
Yeah.
It's NBA players, everyone's hamstrings are shot, everyone's knees are shot, basically. It's and it's just the NBA put in a new rule this year for load management that if you miss 14 games or more, then you're not eligible for any awards or All-Star status. So even
Jesus.
Yeah, so because Joel Embiid got hurt, earlier in the season, Joel Embiid got hurt, and he was kind of nursing a bad, I can't remember if it was a knee or hamstring, one of the two, and he felt pressured to play because he can only miss so many games. That I should say, yeah, because he was missing so many games, and then he played on a bad knee, and ultimately then got into a play, hurt himself, and the play resulted in him getting hurt even more and missing more time, and ultimately he missed, I think 20-some games or something like that. So now he's ineligible for MVP or anything like that, and I sit here going yeah, I mean that's the rule, but it's really sucks when you lose it due to injury. The whole idea of the load management rules was that for entertainment value, that these teams that were already in the playoff spots or whatever would sit, star players like the Bucks would sit like Giannis or something like that, or Damian Lillard, for non-injury related reasons. It was just because they wanted them to take a day off and stuff like that, and it was just like ultimately it led to a worse product for the people that were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to go watch NBA teams or whatever. It's like imagine if the Bucks were at Miami or something like that against the Heat, and then the Bucks said, "Oh yeah, Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, and Damian Lillard are all out this game or whatever." Cool. Part of the reason why people bought those tickets, even if they're Heat fans, is because they wanted to watch their team play against those guys. So ultimately, unless they were actual injuries that they can confirm, the Bucks would then get in trouble if they weren't. That's the whole thing, is that they would get fined. And it's like, that's what they're trying to get rid of, is that just sitting random guys or whatever. But ultimately that will also mean that it's more strenuous on these guys that play 82 games in a very intense sport, especially on your legs.
Well, one could argue that all sports are really intense, but I get what you're saying.
To me, basketball, when it comes to basketball is the most intense sport, I think, on your legs specifically.
I think that's true, absolutely.
I'm not saying that of course every sport is strenuous on your body, and especially your legs, especially anything that includes running. But it's like, when it's like you're constantly running up and down, you're beating up against one another, and the whole thing of like with the way the way guys move, especially
just the way you got to move your legs, yeah.
The guards or whatever, and like move their legs and like kind of like do like their little their jukes and everything like that. It's like you're constantly moving back and forth, and it's hard on your knees. It's like one of my favorite players before. I mean, I was never really a Bulls fan, but I loved Derrick Rose. He was so good and so much fun to watch. But then it's just like he was so fast and played so hard that his knees just gave out on him, and he was just never the same player since. And it sucks. Like, he's still in the league. I think he still plays for some team. I don't remember what, but he is a shell of what he was. Like, he's still a decent player, but it's just like, man, watching that guy play in like the, I don't know, 2010s was that? I don't know. He was so fun to watch. I don't know. That's how I based my whole thing off of it. It's just like, man, well, I was like, Derrick Rose was so good, and then he was just like, then his knees just kind of gave out on him, and then he's just not the same.
That must be fairly common, especially in the NBA.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but that's just my number one. Whenever I think of it, is like I go to Derrick Rose. All right, well, we've been going for about an hour and 20, and we started at video games, and then we had a lot of sports talk.
Yeah.
Want to call it there?
I think so. I'm satisfied with this podcast.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good stopping point there. And it just occurred to me that we never did an intro again.
No.
Ah, well.
Want to do the intro now?
I mean, that is the thing that some podcasts I listen to do, is that they don't do an intro right at the beginning, and then they do. Hey, it's like, hey, I'm Andrew. I'm just some dork or whatever that plays video games and watches a bunch of sports.
Like after 20 minutes, I feel like that's what.
No, not after 20 minutes. After the whole entire thing. Like, I could be listening to a whole hour podcast, and then they do that.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's play, watch, listen, but I think when you're watching that show, it's like, or that one, it's like, I feel like you probably know who like Alana Pierce is, and like Mike Bithell and Austin Wintory.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like you kind of know who they were, considering that their whole thing is like, oh, we're talking about video games, even though it's 50-50 whether or not they actually do. Kind of like this podcast, which you should subscribe to and everything like that, because it's awesome, and we love doing it. We love talking about random bullshit here. Starting with video games and ending with sports. That's how it goes. So be sure to follow my co-host over there, Alex. Hey, if you're watching the YouTube or whatever, our names are on screen. You don't need to know who we are. But yeah, go follow Alex wherever he wants, the Twitch or whatever. It's all linked in the show description below or in the YouTubes whenever you're watching. And if you're not watching on YouTube, you can see our lovely, lovely faces on it.
Watch the podcast. Listen to the podcast.
Do all the things in the podcast.
Buy T-shirts.
We don't have
T-shirts, but you should buy them.
We don't have T-shirts. I don't really have a desire to make T-shirts or anything like that. I always just think that merch is too much of a hassle to actually handle.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
You gotta wear shirts to live. Go buy them.
I feel like I'm listening to an old Rooster Teeth ad where it's just like, hey, shirts, you like them, you know you want them, we have them, come buy them because you got to wear them, bitches. That's how you get food and stuff like that.
The difference is that we don't have shirts, and I'm just saying that you should buy shirts.
Yeah, just go buy shirts. Go to your local Kmart. Do they exist still?
No, I don't believe so.
Do Kmarts exist? I gotta look this up. Hold on. This is important.
Go up to your local Sears, buy all the T-shirts, wear pants, be a good motherfucker.
As of February 2024, there are 12 Kmart stores in the United States.
You want to talk about... so we basically just did an intro. I want to talk about Kmart for the next 20 minutes.
There's 3 in New York? What the fuck?
Where's the nearest Kmart to us?
Looks like in Minnesota.
Do you want to take a trip to Minnesota?
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're going to Kmart.
Anyway, thank y'all so much for listening. And
where's the closest Buc-ee's, I wonder?
Oh, that's a good question. And we'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye. Nah, I really feel like we should go to Kmart now.
Yeah.
There used to be a Kmart at where I went to college in Platteville. My mom always liked coming out to see me at school, so that way she had an excuse to go to Kmart.
That just sounds bizarre.
Yeah, it's weird.